Hello. I'm sure nobody's going to notice that I'm on live, but I decided that I would go live because here I've been running a channel about estranged and alienated people, men and women around the globe, and bits and pieces about my life inserted into conversations that probably add up to very little. So I decided that I needed to tell my story. I keep talking about being an estranged mom, an alienated grandmother, and I realized something that I've never told the full story. I've talked about the pain, but not the life that came before it. So today I'm going to be brave enough to say it out loud. It's kind of like being at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting and standing out for the first time. People may judge me. People may have comments. People may offer advice. People may think things that they never tell me. But the one thing that I've learned in all the conversations that I've had with myself, with people that I've had on the YouTube show, the live stream, is that if I don't accept my own reality, I'm going to stay stuck in it and not in the one that I should be in. So it's time to let it go. So welcome and thank you for being here. This space is where we talk about things most people don't understand. And there's no judgment, there's no negativity. It's just honesty. If you're new to this and it resonates with you, subscribe and turn on notifications. If you've been here before, thank you and keep coming back. I'm not a professional. I'm just a mom trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. I wasn't a perfect mother. Who is? But I was present, very present. And I don't mean that in words, I mean that in how I showed up. I was at everything, every hockey game, every hockey practice, every soccer game, every football game, school events, activities, track and field, concerts at school. I was there. I was there for my kids so that they would see me. In fact, my one son was a goalie. And because he was a goalie, he played both ends of the rink. And I sat dead center of the rink so that no matter which end he was playing at, he could look up after a shot on net and see that I was there and know that I was watching every minute of it. And he missed that if I wasn't in that seat. At the odd time, I was a little slow. But for the most part, I couldn't tell you how many games he played, but there weren't many, maybe one or two, where I was not sitting in that seat. If they were there, so was I. Not sometimes, and not when it was convenient, every single time. And at the same time, as I was building a future for them, I went back to school while raising them. I had a friend babysit them so that I could do that. I didn't choose between being a mother and building a life. I carried both. I chose at an early age that I wanted to be a mother. I had my first son at the age of 20 after being married at 19. And I built something. I didn't just get a job, I built a career. I became a director of a software company, 2 different software companies. So not once, twice, 2 different companies. It came with long hours, lots of pressure, and huge responsibility. And I still came home. I still made dinner. And I was still their mom. And I still sat on the couch and watched their TV shows with them. My older boys even came to work with me at a certain point as they got older. They saw it. They saw how I worked. They saw what I built. They saw how respected I was by my staff and my peers, my colleagues. They saw who I was. And they were proud of me. I knew they were proud of me. They didn't even have to say it. I knew it. I didn't just raise kids. I built a life around them. I chose where we lived based on what I thought would give them the best childhood, one I didn't have. I wanted them to have independence, friends, and a place to belong. And when that didn't turn out exactly as I had imagined, I adjusted. I made our home the place everyone came to, our friends, their friends. There was always people there. We had a pool and it was always full. Every weekend there was food, noise, and laughter. Our house was the house you wanted to be at. And holidays, they weren't just holidays, they were traditions. I built many traditions. And those traditions, they still carry. They still do those traditions. And I know they do because I've had it thrown in my face. I made a decision early on that I wasn't going to split their day in half in terms of Christmas with their father or make them feel pulled between 2 homes. So we alternated Christmas Day every year with their father. And when I say their father, I mean the 2 older of my children had one father, and my last child has my current husband is his father. So they had when their father had their Christmas Day, so the 25th was his day that year, I moved mine. I rearranged my schedule so that their day was still a Christmas day from the minute they woke up to the minute they went to bed. They still had every celebration, every tradition, everything was exactly the same as if it was the 25th. So they got both without any stress, without any conflict, and without choosing. And you know what? Sometimes their dad was even at our Christmas. I adjusted because it was better for them. Their dad was a part of our life, and they knew it. Their dad was it was like having 3 parents. Me and my husband and my ex-husband. Birthdays, Christmases, Thanksgiving, events, graduations, school stuff, everything. We did everything together. And every Christmas there was family. Whoever was available, they were there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. The house was full. They got to be kids. They got to be a family, be with family. And while they were doing that, I was in the kitchen making the dinner, pulling it all together, making sure it felt like Christmas. That wasn't accidental. That was built. And when things weren't easy, I still showed up as their parent. There was a moment where my sons, the older 2, had a paper route, and instead of delivering the newspapers, they decided to stuff them in under my neighbor's porch. And when I got a phone call from the newspaper company telling me about it because the neighbor had called the newspaper company, I grounded them. They were disciplined, but their discipline matched whatever issue there was. Because that's what parents do. I wasn't abusive. They didn't like it though. So they left. They decided they wanted to go and live with their dad. Their dad didn't want them to live with them. They packed their bags. They made a plan and they ran away. So I got a phone call one afternoon that they didn't come home from school. And I had to race home from work to try and find them. And for hours, I had no idea where they were. The police was called. There was a mobile unit set up. The police were going door by door. There was a helicopter in the sky looking for them. They weren't far away. The next morning, they were caught on the street. They were walking towards their dad's girlfriend's house. That's not a bad mother. That's not a mother who held her kids accountable, because when they got home, although I was angry that they'd run away, they were gone. I was scared. I was afraid for them because they were at that time 11 and 8 years old. 11 and 8? Yes. That's a mother who held her kids accountable for their actions and still carried the fear of losing them. And when they came back, I didn't stop being their mom. I kept going. When my last job ended, because it was bought out and restructured, I didn't really fall apart. I adapted. I fell apart a little bit for a little while, but then I adapted. And I sat down and I wrote my own software program. And I started my own business. I kept going for them. But that business couldn't continue from the home that we lived in. By that time, we had moved from one place to another place that didn't have very reliable internet. So I got a small office where the internet was more reliable. And that added a little store to offset the cost. But that little store, it grew. It became something bigger and it shifted something in me too. For the first time in a long time, I had something that felt like mine. Something I created. Something that I loved. And that's when everything changed. Same kids who were proud of me as a director became embarrassed of me as a store owner. All of them. Their snide comments, their remarks, just the way they behaved and talked, it was all noticeable. I went from someone they looked up to someone they distanced themselves from. I wasn't the title anymore. I wasn't the career. I was just a store owner. And somehow that made me less to them. And right at that exact same time, my body changed. Menopause hit. Lucky me. Hormones, emotions, and a version of myself that I didn't recognize. And it didn't happen in isolation. It happened at the same time I was losing how they saw me. So while I was trying to hold on to myself, I was losing them. And what I needed was support. Not fixing, not perfection, just someone to stay. But instead, I was avoided. I was judged. I was called names. as pushed away. And that's what broke something inside of me. And eventually it left. Not just physically, emotionally, and completely. There wasn't a moment that fixed it, no conversation that brought it back, just distance that became permanent. It's been 10 years since then. And that time frame that I just uncovered, it lasted about a year. Prior to that, there was at least 18 years, give or take, because the youngest was 18 years old. So in the end, I spent 18 plus or minus, well, no, minus 18 plus years of showing up, of building, of loving, of being there, of creating a life, replaced by 1 year where I wasn't okay. And somehow that 1 year became the only thing that mattered. What happens when a parent becomes human? Do you stay or do you walk away? And now I have a granddaughter, but I don't get to see her. I don't get to talk to her. I've sent her gifts that I don't know she's received. I don't get to know. I have another grand something coming. Might even be here. I don't know. I learned about it on the internet. And everything I did wasn't because I didn't love them or I didn't show up, but because I wasn't the version of myself that they wanted me to be. They made mistakes growing up. They pushed boundaries. They tested limits. And like any parent, I gave them chances over and over and over again. But when it was my turn, when I needed understanding, when I needed grace, I didn't get a second chance. I just got erased. I wasn't a bad mother. I was a present one, a strong one who showed up every single day. I had 1 year where I needed support from them. And they weren't babies when I needed it. They were young adults, so they knew better. And that's the part they chose not to forgive. And if you're living this, you're not alone. One chapter, not even one chapter. It does not erase a lifetime. They were allowed to grow, make mistakes, and be forgiven. But when it was my turn, I wasn't given the same grace. I didn't get a second chance. I just got erased. So now I wear the label, the scarlet letter, so to speak, of a mother whose kids won't speak to her, won't acknowledge her, won't send a card on Mother's Day or a call or a text, won't acknowledge my birthday, won't say Merry Christmas, won't respond to any of my messages. And I get to spend the rest of my life living that way and accepting it. To know you're not alone. And if you ever want to join me to tell your story, I got space for you anytime. Thank you, and have a great day.